The problem with payments. Moving money overseas. A surprisingly large percentage of charitable donations never make it to their intended recipients. The same problem, as we'll learn later in this presentation, also applies to for-profit corporations making international payments. Karsten Hills, global head of the payments division of the financial services company INTL FCStone, explains why.
If an organization spends 10% of its income on administrative costs, the recipient, one would think, receives $90 out of a $100 donation. But this is wrong, right? In a lot of cases it doesn't happen. And the reason it doesn't happen is because if this organization uses a bank and transfers the $90 to a foreign country, particularly an emerging market country, it has no control over the exchange rate which gets applied to the $90. In local currency, only $80 or $50 or $70 might arrive. It's just a loss to the local office who has less money and can do less with that money than it could do if the transfer would have been done more efficiently.
One foreign aid organization was sending $2 million a month to a country in Africa and relying on a local bank to change the money into the local currency. But by not soliciting bids for more competitive exchange rates, the charity lost about $200,000 every month. Nana Bokye Ajay is the author of Missing Millions, a white paper that looks at how NGO and charitable contributions often end up failing to reach their intended recipients.
Missing Millions was the first of two papers that I wrote that looked at how international NGOs move money from their headquarters to their programs in the developing world. The impetus, the idea behind it was to explore the possibilities really of saving money, of cutting the waste and being more efficient in the way in which currency was procured. I think our biggest finding with Missing Millions was the scale of the potential saving, and we estimated that between 20 to 50 million pounds on an annualised basis could be saved if finance directors and charities identified the right type of organisations, service providers, when procuring foreign currency.
Peter Baus, Chief Financial Officer of the global humanitarian aid organization, CARE.
CARE is an organization that was founded right after World War II to help post-war Europe, and we delivered care packages, and that's where the name comes from. And that was our first major activity, and it was humanitarian in nature following major war and civil conflict. And CARE has continued to work in humanitarian action around the world. But we also do long-term development, social development, economic development, and finally we engage in advocacy to make sure that the policy environment is also conducive to overcoming poverty. We work in more than 80 countries around the world. And obviously we work in all of those currencies, of all of those countries.
A lot of banks maintain a correspondent relationship in these developing countries, but they can't really control it. It's the partner bank of this institution. So if you go to a bank and you make a transfer, that dollar amount or euro amount gets transferred to 2 or 3 other banks in the course of the payment, and these banks might take fees out or not. But the originating bank really doesn't have control over it. And the problem is you cannot be really sure how much money arrives in the beneficiary's account.
People want to ensure that that money is being deployed, transferred, and then implemented in the most effective way possible. And that includes preventing wastage at any point. But alongside that, and I think with a lot of the NGOs who are buying the currency on a spot rate basis, it's about being able to identify the right price on the day of purchase. And really the only way that you can do that is by casting your net as far and as wide as possible, hence the idea of competitive tender. Speaking to as many people to see if you can get that best price.
We have accounts in these countries, we maintain relationships with the banks in countries, and the funds come directly from our account to the account of the beneficiary. This ensures two things. First of all, the funds get delivered within 48 hours. Second of all, that we offer a highly competitive market rate and we build all the costs into the quoted FX rate. So the beneficiary always receives the full amount.
We know that if we were not competitively bidding, we might actually, on our conversions, maybe lose 1% or 1.5% or something like that, which is obviously, if you compare that to overall operations, that's a considerable sum of money.
NGOs now have the tools and the intelligence to get better rates for procuring currency for their programs, and should be able to get most of that money to the programs and the people that need them. I think there is less and less of an excuse now to not be proactive in the way in which you're buying currency.
Us being and other banks being in the market as well, our competitors as well. In general, it kept the banks locally on their toes. It allowed for the market to become more competitive. People now have choices, they can get a variety of prices for these type of transfers, and they have a variety of choices of providers. This allows everybody to bring the price a little bit closer to where it should be, and as a result, those charities and aid and development organizations can make these payments much more efficiently today.
Managing the risk, making sure that you're only converting the right amount of currency, doing it in the best possible way where you're going to get the best rate, and avoiding making multiple currency conversions. Those are the most important thing. And then using technology as efficiently and effective as possible, to actually keep track of that.
Charities aren't the only organizations victimized by uncompetitive exchange rates. Businesses that operate internationally can also face millions in unnecessary costs.
For-profit corporations can learn a lot from non-profit organizations and charities. They can learn that, these payments are very important, and they learn this today, for example, when they do payroll payments in local currency. The people on the ground need to be paid on a specific day. The money has to be there on time. A lot of cases for these payments, not only about price and fees, it's as well about the money arriving on time and the exact amount of money the client needs. So they can learn that charities, aid of development agencies have gone through this process and have found ways to do it correctly.
Going forward, there is an energy behind ensuring that the money that is assigned to development assistance is used in the most effective way possible. And if that continues to be the case, the future can only be right.
Whether you are an NGO, charity, or for-profit corporation who would like to learn how to make local currency payments more effectively and inexpensively, please contact us today.